All right. Good afternoon. That was awful. Unacceptable. Good afternoon. There we go. Alive, alert, and falsely enthusiastic is the enthusiastic piece. But guys, again, my name is Austin Malliolo. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to speak in front of you. Some very familiar faces, a lot of new faces, and I've have the honor to be a part of this community for 15 plus years. And recently, last couple months, I've switched. I moved on from my time at CrossFit and joined Mayhem. And obviously, it's an unbelievable journey for me. And it's a really kind of pivotal moment for me in my life, just in speaking on behalf of Mayhem. I'm really excited. Obviously, with Rich and what he has grown, it's really exciting for me to become a part of that and to talk about what that looks like. And as we dig into this, a few things I want to lean into is the purpose of this lecture is not a lecture, it's a discussion, right? That's why I wanted you guys to at least be falsely enthusiastic when I say good afternoon, to make sure that we are somewhat aware. If you raise your hand, full extension of the elbow, right? These are things that we can hopefully remember from our level 1, right? But the purpose of this lecture is to talk about Project Mayhem. And the first rule of Project Mayhem is you don't talk about Project Mayhem, right? For those of you that understand that, of course, the laughs, I'm getting older, or that movie wasn't that popular. But there you go, a little bit there. Of course, obviously, we're going to talk about it. We're going to dig into it a little bit here. And if we don't have slides, that's completely fine. They were not obligatory, and I expected technical difficulties as we dug into this piece here. But again, when we talk about what Project Mayhem is and where we're going and what we're doing and what we've learned, that's the purpose of what we've learned at Mayhem. And I'm going to say this from multiple different perspectives, and I'm going to switch context. I've been on the periphery of what Rich and Mayhem have been doing for a long time. I've been very close to Mayhem in different ways, and now I've been able to kind of look under the hood as well, right? And the beauty of this is that we want to dig into discussing exactly what we've learned. And why is that? It's imperative because, and a few things I'll pause. If it's on the slide, write it down. There's not a lot. I'd write this stuff down. It's sort of like, and listen to the rest. When we think back to our level 1, raise your hand if you remember your level 1. Yeah. Now, full extension of the elbow? Yes. Awesome. And if your hands weren't raised, I question a lot about you. Now, from that perspective, guys, we probably remember about 20%, forgot about 80%. And that's expected. And that 20% undoubtedly has changed your life in some way, shape, or form. Is that fair? Good. There we go. If you're in these tables, I expect some response. There's special plaques. You guys are close. Live up to it. Now, what is the most impactful, important aspect of the level 1? When we think about it. There's so many unbelievable things. Variance, functionality, intensity, work capacity across broad time and modal domains, right? Eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, mechanics, consistency, intensity. Hopefully all of these things, like, oh yeah. A lot of these things are the foundation of what we've built our lives on. Right? That's why you're here. But what is the most important concept from that course? Right? And it's this. It's the black box theory of thinking. I want to talk about why, because that's what we are actually going to be talking about for the next half an hour or so. And if you remember, do you guys remember this concept? No. Good. Anyone does remember? Who remembers it? Anyone? Raise your hand. Okay. This might blow your mind more than I expected it then. Okay. The black box theory of thinking. You have an input. It's a stimulus. Something happens in that black box. And for this purpose of this discussion, for the most part, we actually don't mind too much about what's happening there. We don't care too much. There's an output. We care about results, outputs. We care about the efficacy of a program. Are we getting results? Are we getting better? Whatever that might be in whatever context we're talking about, right? So then from there, all we want to do is make sure, well, did we get better? Was that an optimal output? If yes, then we want to continue with whatever that input was. That make sense? Now, hopefully, this is starting to come back a little bit. Oh, yes, this is why we do what we do. But now the key aspect is not that we're just results driven. Obviously, we want, across our lifetime, from a fitness perspective, increased work capacity across broad time and modal domains throughout your life. All right, and that's health. But then from there, it's a commitment to this cycle. And I believe an area of improvement, a gap, an area that we've gotten stuck into is this dogmatic approach is, well, this is the way we've always done it, so we're going to do it this way. This is the way I do it, so I'm going to do it this way. And that's actually at odds with this concept. This concept is a challenging one because humility is important. Your ego needs to step out of the way, and we need to be okay with learning, evolution, challenging, questioning. In fact, that's what most of us were drawn to in the very beginning. CrossFit, at its core, from the methodology perspective, is contrarian, right? How many of you guys, when you first dove into CrossFit, there were things that you're like, nah, that's wrong. Kipping, cheating, squatting below parallel, bad for you, right? Variance, random, can't get strong or fit doing that, right? Well, we've learned some of that stuff is not necessarily true. In fact, the antithesis of. We have to continually commit to this cycle. Have we done this effectively over the last 15 plus years? I would say as a community, the answer is no. I don't think we have. And what I mean by that, we haven't articulated what we've learned to a point to then share it with everybody else. Do I think learnings are happening? Absolutely. And that's what we're going to talk about here. Do I think that every one of you have evolved and adapted over however long you've been doing this? Yes. Probably wouldn't be here. And I do want to say that this group, the people that are here over the course of the next 2 days, you're the 1%. You're here. And that's really special. And so a lot of this stuff should resonate with you because you understand the importance of being here, of learning, evolving, growing, challenging yourself. Because if you didn't, you would not be here. But part of this is understanding our responsibility to share this with others. So, what are our learnings? Bottom line up front. These are our learnings. Now, obviously, we've learned a lot of things. These are boiled down in talking to Rich and talking to the whole crew at Mayhem, really digging in over the last couple months and looking under the hood a little bit. And these are not in any sort of stack rank specific order. These are in an order that I want to be able to discuss with you and have a framework for discussion. Have something to train for. If you've ever heard Rich speak, talks about this. I want to talk about what that means. It's a little different than a goal. It's having something to train for. And as we go through this, we'll also talk about how this relates to not only fitness, but also what we do in other areas, specifically business. Stand for something. Have your values. We'll talk about that next and how important our values at Mayhem are and how that guides decision-making. Values are important because it makes saying yes easy. It makes saying no easier. And how important they are, not when times are easy, but when times are hard. You stand on them. Overcoming this elite athlete perception. Something that it was a really important learning at Mayhem, and it's something that has permeated to many other areas of our business. And it's something I'm sure we have struggled in different ways, shapes, and forms in our own gym community. Right? And a dovetail on that is, from this perspective, is doing hard things. We'll talk about how this is a bit of a buzzword nowadays, but doing something hard is important. Shared suffering is important, but there needs to be purpose to it. And there needs to be direction. In turn, how important intervals are. And this is it's one of those like, why does this one seems a little bit out of place. We're talking how in place is arguably one of the most important learnings up there for intensity, for longevity, but also how it pertains to business. And we want to talk about, and really what it comes down to is burnout. Right people in the right places. This one is, true coach speak, this could be the most important one. It's like when a coach has one more rep, you know they're full of shit because you're going to do more than one more rep. It's like, yeah, this could be the most important one. Yes, I'd probably say that about all of them. Simplicity is the red thread here. In talking to everyone at Mayhem over the last couple months, the big thing is like when we discuss these, simple. We sometimes convolute complexity with efficacy. If If it's complex, it must be good. Complex things are usually hard to execute and easier to fail. We stand on our core values, and these are our values: faith, family, fitness, service. These are ours. And as we go through, and Rory's going to speak a little bit tomorrow and talk about how important these are as well, actions, business, members, movement are all an expression of those values. So as we go through this and we dig this a little deeper, we'll spend a lot of time on how important this is, specifically when it comes to standing for something. Whatever that might be for you. These should be clearly defined and articulated for you and every single person, whether it's your team of coaches, whether it's your family, whatever that might be, it should be very clear. What we're going to do now is go through each and every one of these, and we're going to kind of break it down a little bit, talk about from a fitness perspective, from a business perspective. And what I want you guys to think about is like, what's your call to action here? What are you leaving here with? It's not that you're taking these and overlaying it into your world. It's what am I learning? What can I do better? Where do I have to, which one of these resonate with me of like, yeah, wow, maybe I need to spend a little more time thinking about this, or maybe I just need to pull back and look at my whole structure of a business, how I approach fitness from a programming perspective. That is all going to be individual. Success after this is you leave here questioning a little bit and asking, can I be doing something better? And really, it should be a never-ending process when we think about that black box theory of thinking. So the first one, have something to train for. So let me ask you this first question right now. What are you training for right now? Raise your hand, I want answers. Boom. So getting older, we're going to be able to take care of the 2 boys. What else? Train for the open. If you don't have something to train for, this might blow your mind even more than I further expected. If there's only 2. Here we go. Yep. Did I see it? Was that a hand or just a hair? That was a good one. That was a good one. Good move. Good move. High rocks coming up. Awesome. Richard. Yeah, beat me and Darren at 806 Classic. Yes, I'm glad. I didn't even tell him to say that, but it was actually layered in this conversation here. So, yeah. To go to the CrossFit Games. Awesome. To get stronger and fitter before I get too old. Train for life. My sanity. I like it. Now we're warming up. All right, now we're talking about it. Now it's like weeds. You know, like once one dandelion pops up, but others stop popping up out of the lawn, right? I like it. Shaking it off. Falsely enthusiastic, right? So I'm hearing a lot here, and here's the thing. We're convoluting goals and having something to train for. And it was beautiful. Because everything you said, were they important? Absolutely. But having a macro, overarching goal is a little different than having something to train for. And why this is so important, why it's been such a specific learning, specifically from Rich, and what we've learned at Mayhem from an athletic perspective, as well as from a business perspective, is that when we think about our athletes, and I know Christy was up here just talking about retention and understanding and progressing towards goals and understanding what that looks like, it is very hard to reach out and grab what it means to stave off decrepitude as you get older, right? Because basically what I heard a lot here is like, well, I want to make sure that I hone in on the pyramid of the theoretical hierarchy, the development of an athlete. That's what you all said in summary, right? I want to work on all these things. So sport, which is I'm in the sport of life. I want to be able to take care of my kids. I want to be able to work on that. But that's really ambiguous, is it not? What does that mean? And I love all of us in here, but at some point, that's like, you know, is that gonna push you a little harder? Is that gonna make you rethink about what you're doing and why you're doing it? Having that overarching macro goal is important, but pull it back down and think about members that walk into your gym. Is that something that's going to continually pull them and push them? I don't think so. Having something to train for can be that milestone, the 806 Classic, in a couple weeks, right? And why do I say this? Because prior to that, I didn't have anything on the calendar, right? And I was doing that, training for life, training so I could, do what I want to do, play with my daughter, right? All that good stuff. And then Rich somehow conned me into this competition, and Darren. And all of a sudden, I noticed something changing. And it wasn't that I materially changed everything I was doing, but I was training with a little more excitement, also a little more nerves, right? It's like, oh man, I gotta make sure, I gotta perform a little bit, right? Working out with a little more intensity, a little more purpose, a little more, making sure that my quality of movement was on point. And I've been doing CrossFit for 15 years. I've had the opportunity to go to the CrossFit Games many times and compete and do all sorts of things. But all it takes is just an event in a couple weeks to make sure that I'm moving a little better. I'm feeling a little better, right? Making sure that I feel my recovery is a little more on point. Whatever that might be. And it's been fun. Fun. Who would have thought? Right? And I heard this in the previous portion. These, what do I do about athletes? They've been doing a long time and reaching PRs. Like, I don't know if I'm personally ever going to reach another PR in anything really I did. Think about that. Like, and that, at face value, that sucks. But, well, that's not what I'm training for. I'm training for something different. And maybe that is a High Rocks race. I think High Rocks is a really good example of having something to train for. Right? It's a moment, it's known, it's knowable, you can train for that. I'm sure you have a lot of members that do that. The Open's another really good example, right? But having these milestones are very important. Specifically for our athletes that walk in the gym. You got to give them something to train for. Right? It gives you that motivation, that excitement, because motivation's weak. It falls away, right? And that's why, it's tough. It's like every day. It's like, all right, I'm doing this so I can, when I'm 80, which, 40 years from now, I'm feeling good. That might not do the trick. Yes, there's a foundational understanding there, but that layer on. From a business perspective, this is very simple but cannot be lost. What are your goals for this week, this month, this quarter? Right? That's why, in nerdy business speak, what are your objectives? What are you looking to achieve this month? And that's really important for you and your team. What are your goals? Think about that from a business perspective. Every one of you in here, as a gym owner, right, should know exactly what you're looking to achieve by the end of this month. If not, what are you going to achieve? Right? And there's a lot of people that will talk a lot about this and unbelievable, experts throughout this weekend. We'll give you some, I'm sure, frameworks on that, but you have to think through that. What are your goals for this quarter, this year? It's a wonderful metaphor. Right? You know what? I want this big, hairy, audacious goal. Great. How do I get there? You opened your gym. I want 300 members. Cool. What are you doing this week? Right? And it can be very simple. Change the toilet paper holder in the bathroom because it's hanging off the wall, right? It can be that simple. You get it done, boom, check it off the list, feel good, right? Having something to train for, it's first for a reason. It really sets the stage for a lot of what we're talking about. Stand for something, values. Gosh, I would say more so than now than ever within our space, standing for something couldn't be more important. And I can tell you, when you think about values, it's not something that when you walk in, it's like, read the rules of our gym, right? It's like, no, that's not what it is. Your values are expressed through your actions. They're expressed through your members, through your business, through your movement. Greg Glassman, the founder of CrossFit, would always say, and I think it's one of the most profound, simple statements of the evaluation of a CrossFit gym is, I can judge how effective you are and how good your gym is based off how well your people air squat and how clean your bathrooms are. Well, why? Right? Think about that. If your people move well, specifically, they have mastered the fundamentals, right? It says something about what you focus on, coaching. Also, the basics. If your bathrooms are clean, it also shows that you understand the importance of what those basic operations are, and you scale that all the way up. I can tell you exactly what I feel when I walk into a gym and I see members that are not hitting range of motion, but more importantly, coaches that are not working to get them there. Right? And that's an expression of your values. Right? Culture. We talk a lot about culture. We talk a lot about community, right? What do you stand for? Community. I hear that a lot. I would urge you guys to go a little deeper. Your community is a reflection of your values, whatever it might be. You can't just stand for community. That doesn't mean anything. You have to stand for something, and your community is built around that. When you walk in to Mayhem, you feel faith, family, fitness, service. It's a part of the DNA. However you interact with Mayhem, whether it's virtually, in person, once a year, you should feel that. The beauty of our community is that if there's 400 gyms here, you can have 400 different sets of core values. That's the beauty of it. I would say there are probably some really strong red threads across all of them, which is also the beauty of it, which is also why we can walk into any CrossFit gym around the world and you feel that and you see that, right? Drop in, chest bumps, high fives, workouts, right? Coffee. So if there's one thing here, again, if you don't have them defined, maybe you spend some time thinking about that. Right? Think about it. And if you have a team, you have a partner, whoever it might be, work with them on it. What do you stand for? What does that look like? What aren't you doing that you'd like to be doing? What is hard for you that you need to be continually reminded of? These aren't meant to be easy. Values are important, not when times are easy, when times are hard. I don't care what you can do when times are easy. What are you doing when things are challenging? When you have to stand in the face of adversity or challenge? You have to hold the line. That's when you stand on these. And that's when, whether it is culturally, whether it's within our community, whether it is, if it's a tough time in business. It also makes saying no much easier. I've seen this firsthand in the last couple months. A lot of conversations, a lot of meetings, all the time. You understand our values? Appreciate you, but no. Come get a workout in. We still love you. Right? If we summon a line, let's have a conversation. Right? And again, keeping the simplicity in that is important. And why this ties into sort of overcoming this elite athlete perception, and why it has been so important from a Mayhem perspective, specifically when you think about the journey of Rich. Obviously, you associate Mayhem and Rich winning championships, the best. Right? And when you walk into a gym and you think you're about to be, engulfed by these unbelievable athletes that are literally going to the games every year, I think that's petrifying for people. Yeah. I mean, we still hear that today. It's, from a macro perspective, but from our perspective, why this has been so important is because you think about our values. Go back to those values. Right? Nowhere in there does it say elite. Nowhere in there does it say exclusive. I mean, there's family, there's faith, there's service, there's fitness. In fact, it's more inclusive than you can imagine. And over the last 10, 15 years, it's been a lot of work to do. And I know, and talking a lot to the team and Rich about this of how important it is to make sure that when you walk into Mayhem HQ, you feel an expression of those values. It's the bedrock of what you feel is that our elite athletes, actually stand on the foundation of our community. They stand on the foundation of our members. They work out with class. They partake in our events. And that's also what's nice about it. If athletes don't want to do that, they probably won't end up training with us. And that's okay. But I can tell you that this is so important because for the last 10 years we've heard, well, how do you get over this notion? I'm a competitive gym. I'm a competitive gym. No, you're not. There's no such thing as a competitive gym. You're a gym that has an unbelievable community that stands on the back of them, a couple of athletes that may have the opportunity to go to another level, or maybe just love to work out a little more competitively. Right? You got to work hard at that. And when people walk in the gym and they see your 8:30, your 10 o'clock class, we call it our life class. You just see people working out, and you literally see games athletes right next to them, chest bumping, high fiving. And what's the best way to handle this is too dangerous, I can't do this, right? How you guys still struggle with that sometimes, that conversation with people? Well, the best way is have them come watch. come to the gym. Take a look. That hasn't changed since the inception. It's because you also feel the energy. You can see, well, that person looks like me. That person is not doing crazy things, right? And that's been a really important learning for us. And it's probably not talked about enough from our perspective. And it's something we're going to talk a lot about more of how we do that and how to integrate, but it's very important. And the act of it's not hard, but being consistent is challenging because to take care of your people, right? Do hard things. Put this next because we sometimes think that these can be at odds. Do hard things. If you're like listening to any sort of like fitness podcast in the space right now, everyone's like do hard things and like, sleep 40 hours a night, right? It's like there's this, which is awesome. Like everyone's talking about all these longevity protocols and like, and then you got people, it's like, throw on a ruck and, climb up Mount Everest and you'll like, be enlightened. Again, yes, there's some unbelievable truth to that. But what is it? And what do we mean by do hard things? Speaking to this room, I think we make a lot of sense, right? Like when you guys first did CrossFit, you're like, well, shit, that was easy. I'm going to do this again. No, you're like, this was awful. Really difficult and hard, right? And then, of course, we all made the mistake of, all right, I'm going to make my friend do their first workout, right? And Rich, what was the first workout you make people do? I love this one. Yeah. Okay, that's like old. Like seven. It's only 7 minutes. 7 minutes of wall balls and burpees, right? And if they're crawling out of the gym, you've done it right. Right? Like I think we've learned. Like so, when we think about learning, did we all learn that lesson the hard way? Raise your hand. Right? We all did that, right? Of course. So at least we've adhered to that policy in some way, shape, or form. Right? But doing hard things is important for a few things from a learning perspective. It is important to, and when we think about service, right? Whether it is in honor of something or someone or serving something larger than ourselves, putting yourself in a position that's challenging. Doing something hard can mean many different things. Maybe, again, it's like, hey, we do a 24-hour row on a team. That's really hard and daunting. And you get, and at no point you're like, man, this is awesome during it. Like, no. Afterwards, you're like, that was awesome. That was special. How many of you guys have done something, in the moment you questioned everything about your existence, and then afterwards you're like, you had a couple moments, you're like, I'm really glad I did that. At the very least to say you did it. And so when things get really hard in life, you're like, okay, well, I've done this. I feel like I can handle whatever this next challenge is in front of me. It's an important aspect when it comes to a fitness program. And then thinking about from a business perspective, overlaying how important this is to business. No one is doing the work for you, right? When someone walks in your gym, they're going to do their pull-up. They're going to squat. They're going to run. You're not doing it for them, right? It's hard, very hard. I'd say the thing that we really struggle with the most is balancing, understanding what is hard for certain people, right? It's like I always say, like the message, CrossFit's not for everyone, but anyone can do it. And it's like all like, yes. But for some people, walking in the gym is really hard. Like literally the hardest thing. Why? Because if you don't understand why, that's okay. But that's exactly why you need to start to learn and understand what is hard for other people. Because you're not reaching that person, right? I always said, the hardest part is them getting in there. And then if they walk in your gym, and they leave, it's your fault. Remember that. And we're going to talk, people talk about retention. They love retention's the word, right? Well, the truth is, if someone's in your gym and they leave, there's no one to blame but you. Right? And that's when we think about a lot of this. Well, we have to give them something to achieve. So maybe, like we talked about in that last lecture with Christy, is just getting you to hang from that pull-up bar. Right? Having something to train for. People leave your gym for one of two reasons. Either they're not getting results, or they're not aware of the results they're getting, both of which are your fault. It's that simple. If you are not aware of what your athletes are trying to achieve when they walk in your gym, you're underserving them, and you will lose members. What is hard for them? What's not hard for them? Right? And it goes back to all you have to do is to care. Yes, you have to care, but care needs to be followed by action, or care is worthless. Right? What does that mean? Understanding what is hard for certain people can change your business and change how you approach. Right? Doing hard things from a business perspective too. If you look for the path of least resistance, you will probably fail. Right? Complacency leads to mediocrity. Mediocrity is literally the antithesis of excellence. Ask yourself, what are you doing to be better? And that is usually hard. Right? But you can be smart. Like, hey, trying to put your head through that wall is probably hard. Right? So doing hard things is not just doing hard things without purpose, understanding, or direction. Right? It's like someone asked, what was the hardest workout you ever did? Those answers were dumb, right? Like that, we learned just doing a hard workout is not necessarily the smartest thing. And this is why we think about intensity and intervals and the importance of doing hard things with intelligence, right? If you go back to your level 1 manual, I think the level 1 manual, if you reread it once a month, even like you'd learn something more. There's stuff in there that when you read it, you probably glazed over, right? Intervals are actually the bedrock of that conversation of intensity. But it's very basic and it's very broad brushstroke by design. When we think about intervals and how important it is, if you've ever followed Mayhem for 5 days or 5 years, you'd understand intervals are a part of it. Is that fair? Yeah? What's an interval? There's some type of work and some type of rest. And I would be willing to bet here, okay? I'm gonna put you all on blast here. You guys can run me out later. I'd be willing to bet most of you that have been doing CrossFit for 5+ years are really good at moderate intensity. Yeah, really good at moderate intensity. I'm gonna do this 5-rounder, gymnastics, monostructural weightlifting, because that's the beautiful program. 20 minutes, sweet spot, get a sweat, right? Moderate intensity. Work on these skills, feel good, check the box, do some pull-ups, right? Run a little bit. Yeah, again, moderate results. Moderate intensity will yield moderate results across a lifetime, right? So intervals are the opposite of that. Doing something really uncomfortable for a short period of time. I can't express to you how important this is from a fitness perspective, and you have to think about and also from a longevity perspective. Because there's also this movement out here is like intensity is not good. There's all these things, right? All this stuff. But honestly, if you listen to anyone that understands a little bit about the way this works, intervals always come up, right? Whether you're talking, you have Peter Thiel, you have Huberman, you have Rich, you have it's all the same red thread. And it doesn't have to be complex. Right? The complexity is in how you layer into a program, how you do it, how you scale it, how you handle it for classes and members. That's where you as a coach come into play. But from a fitness perspective, I believe that this is one of the areas that we've underserved our community over the last 15 years of why and how it's so important. Because I would say we have a moderation problem at our gyms. People who just go moderate intensity. I see it all the time, right? And affiliate owners are the worst culprits, right? Because they always say, I don't have time to work out. Right? I can't die. Oh, you don't? You got 10 minutes, right? And that's the thing where it's potent, but it also doesn't beat you up. It doesn't volumize you to the point where, we're putting ourselves in poor positions over the long term. You got to earn the right to move too, right? It's another thing when you're valued. You have to earn the right to move fast and to move heavy loads by putting your body in the right positions at the right time. So a lot of these learnings are predicated on some foundational beliefs we have to agree upon, right? And this is one of these areas when we think about, well, where are we going? Our commitment, and we'll talk about this a little more throughout the weekend, is our commitment at Mayhem is to continually share these learnings. Why is this so important? What have we seen? Because that's what we're built on. I think that's where we're lacking. The continual sharing of how we're pushing the envelope. It's happening to some degree. Sometimes it happens, we don't realize it, right? But putting that down and codifying, that's really important. And why are we doing that? And for some of our members, that matters. For you guys, it matters, right? Do you guys want to know why you're doing something? Yes, absolutely. Some of your members don't give a shit, right? Listen, I just want to look good naked, okay? I'm going to show up late. I'm going to leave early. I trust you, right? We're good, which is great. But it's also important for you to fully understand, because the better you understand, the better you can implement and tweak and deliver a better product on the floor. Business-wise, it's the same thing, right? It goes kind of going back to like, what are our, like the burnout is the number one reason why gyms close. How many of you guys have felt or close to burnout? Be honest. Yeah. And obviously there's a lot of root causes to that, but oftentimes that you just feel like you're in this slog, right? You're just grinding like a long workout with no end, if you will. And in the beginning, you're like, this is awesome. Halfway through, like, it's hard, it's supposed to be hard. Towards the end, like, this sucks, I want to quit, right? Understanding how you approach your business and setting those short-term goals, having something to train for, really understanding that and people will be speaking about this if you look at the topics. How do you work on the business, not in the business? How do you pull yourself up? What is this growth mindset that you have? What excites you? What do you want to work on? What do you want to do? What are your goals? What are your core values? All of these things lean into that. And you can't just spend, like, you have to think about how am I spending time on that? I'm going to spend an hour a day on this deep work. And it's going to re-energize me. Maybe the other end of the spectrum. How many of you guys don't coach anymore? Raise your hand. Don't coach. Anyone? Couple? Yeah. You ever coach a class, you're like, damn, that was awesome. Yeah. Maybe that's it. Coach one class a week. Get fired up. Right? Whatever it might be. Right? Go in those bouts to give you that ability to keep pushing forward. Right people, right spots. Man, again, might be the most important one. Community. Right? We hear that. What does that mean? Your respective community is a reflection of you and your coaches and who you've decided to surround yourself with, right? We've all heard this, right? You're sitting at a table with 5 people. Those 5 people that you surround yourself with are a reflection of your values, what you stand for. They will either lift you up or pull you down. Who you decide to put around you in those positions will make your life easier or harder. It's that simple. And when we think about the learnings at Mayhem, it's no different than any other business, any other gym. It's been 15 years. Businesses grow, people don't grow, people evolve. A business can outgrow a person can outgrow a business. And that's okay. We start a lot of our businesses with friends and family, right? Which is great on day 1, right? And then by day 2, you're like, that was a mistake, right? But again, understanding how important this is to one, understand, do you have the right people in the right positions? Do you have the right positions at all? Think about everyone that is on your team should have a baseball card. And and that baseball card has all of their attributes, right? Do you guys remember baseball cards? Right? Football cards, right? Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, top trump, okay. Yeah, we have tops, yeah, that stuff, okay, we're jiving. And you pull them out and you can see like the attributes, right? There's certain skills. So if I put that on the table for every one of you, right, and on a high performing team, are all of your cards the same? No, right? It's always the same thing. Like, it'd be really weird if like we all were the same person, right? How awkward would that be? So next time you get in an argument, be thankful that you guys have differing views, right? It's actually really healthy, right? So you have a group of people that need to complement one another. So if you have 2 people with the same exact cards, that's tough, right? And again, maybe someone's skills supersede where it is, or maybe the business has changed and you no longer lead that position. And this is so important from a team perspective, specifically at a gym, because my gosh, your people are what separate you, your coaches, your ability to deliver on the floor. Right? How many of you guys feel like you have had or currently have a problem with your team or at your gym? Raise your hand. Full extension of the elbow. Yeah. This can really, and again, that's relatively normal. And a lot of this, like, yeah, no shit, well, what do I do about it? This is not easy. In fact, it's very, very hard. But like anything, it's one of those things that when you do it, you're like, I should have done that a long time ago. Right people in the right spots. And when you walk into a high-functioning gym, a high-functioning community, right? I guarantee you they have the right people in the right spots. You feel it. And all of those things we talked about, all those learnings, the values, it's expressed through everyone, unequivocally and unmatched. That's why it's easy when you start your gym and you're doing everything. That's why it's easy, but that's also why it's unsustainable, right? And you have to ask yourself, what am I trying to do? What are my goals? Do you want to do more? Then you're going to need to learn new skill sets and grow, because you're going to need to have a team and put the right people in the right spots, right? And maybe you don't, and that's also okay, right? These are all learnings. We believe it's our responsibility to share these with you. And it goes back to the very early days, again, your very first level 1, to understand that we need to be committed to this cyclical nature. The only unacceptable answer is, well, we're doing this because it's the way we've always done it. If I hear that, I get very upset, right? That's a cop-out. It's weak. Now, the way you're doing it might actually be the best way, but we need to continually test that input with the output. And that's something that's the purpose of this discussion. We think about what is Project Mayhem, what are we doing at Mayhem? It's just that. First off, share what we've learned and just be unbashful about it. From our values to our learnings and why we believe that what we're doing today is probably going to look a little different in 3 months, 6 months, a year, and we're going to be okay with it, right? And we encourage questioning, challenge, because that's how we get better. In fact, it's the only way. We should never blindly accept everything. And it's okay to change your views on things. Who would have thought? It's all right. But we have to continually go through that process. Why? What's the stimulus? What's the adaptation? We have to ask that question. All right, we have to tweak what we're doing to get a better adaptation from a business perspective, from a coaching perspective, from an athletic perspective. Right? That is the essence of the growth mindset. It's the essence of continually working to increase that work capacity across our lifetime. Evolution is necessary. Change is part of it too. But also, consistency is important too. You just don't change for the sake of change. Right? There are some things that will probably be foundational and have that red thread throughout. The unbelievable simplicity of variance, functionality, intensity is intoxicating, and it's easy to switch out of, right? I'm not getting results. Right? Well, maybe look a little deeper. Have we become better at driving those results? Absolutely. And holding the line. Something that's important to us. What does that mean? We're going to do and say things and that we stand for, and we're going to stand in the face of that. And I believe that that's something that our community respects. That's something that we need. And sharing this with others. Like I said, I would say this is the 1%, if not less, because you're here. You've got to share this with others. That's super important. There's a gym down the road that's not here. Why? Well, most likely it's because they're not adhering to that cycle, and they're stuck somewhere, right? They're stuck somewhere in the middle. They're stuck somewhere trying to figure out how to make it work, but they're unwilling to actually pull out. And maybe someone did that for you. We've got to share that with others. We will lead from the front with that. And we won't stop. And this is just the beginning. But again, it only works if it trickles out even more. Right? Simply put, we're better together than a fragmented, disjointed community. Right? I appreciate you guys. It's an honor to be here for you guys. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here all weekend. Rich and the crew are here all weekend. If you have anything, you have questions, dig in. We'll be over there working out, throwing down, having fun, chest bumps, high fives. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.